Hello, my name is
Dr. Swablu.
and this will be my project on Japanese music. I hope you enjoy. So, to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the music in Japan and just what I think about it overall. The music has a very distinct sound, and I just really enjoy the culture. That is why I ended up choosing Japan as my country of choice to look at the instruments. I just think it's got a really distinct and nice, cool sound. I just love Japanese culture overall, so this is why I chose this country. So to start off on the instruments, we have the Taiko drums. The Taiko drums are very interesting. They are a broad range of Japanese percussion instruments. In Japan, the term actually just refers to any type of drum, but outside of Japan, it's normally used to specifically refer to Japanese drums called waraiko. If you have a multiple amount of these drums, it forms an ensemble normally specifically called the kumai daiko. So I hope you guys enjoy that. We'll be playing a little bit of that in a minute or so. So the process of constructing taiko varies between manufacturers, and the preparation of both the drum body and the skin can take several years depending on the method. Taiko it actually reminds me a lot of the drums we had from Africa, where it did take a lot of time to make those drums as well. So the taiko have a mythological origin in the Japanese folklore, but historical records suggest that the taiko were introduced to Japan through Korean and Chinese cultural influence as early as the 6th century. You'll hear that a lot during this presentation. A lot of Japanese culture does come from Korean culture and Chinese culture, specifically China as much. So you'll see a lot of these instruments are going to be coming from Chinese culture, Korean culture, and other Eastern countries. So their function had varied throughout history, ranging from communication, military action, theatrical accompaniment, and the religious ceremony to both festival and concert performances. In modern times, taiko have also played a central role in social movements for minorities both within and outside of Japan. So we're going to start off by playing a little bit of what I said earlier, the Kumai Daiko. This is a performance in Osaka, so I hope you enjoy it. So we'll switch over to this and we'll play a little bit of this for you. I like how much energy he puts into banging on the drum. It's very interesting. I love how animated they are. In the other performances I saw of them, they were also very animated. So when you're playing in these ensembles, they tend to be very animated, which I find very interesting. Okay, that is all I'm going to play for now of this performance. Anyway, back to the presentation. The next set of instruments we have is going to be the Biwa. Now, the Biwa is a 4-stringed lute played with a large plectrum, otherwise known as a pick. I find the picks very interesting in Japanese culture. They're much larger than you would see for like a guitar or whatnot. So in the Kamakura period from 1185 to 1333, the biwa became a popular instrument and was used for storytelling. So a lot of times you'd use these for like, storytelling, passing down oral tradition as well. So we have the biwa music tends to be used for telling tales or in harmony with the Buddhist chants. So yeah, this is a very religious instrument as well. And the biwa is the chosen instrument of the Benten goddess of music, eloquence, poetry, and education in Japanese Buddhism. It's very interesting. So the biwa is a plucked string instrument that was first popular in China and then spread throughout East Asia. So you're seeing again a lot of that coming from Chinese culture as well. So next we have up is a performance of the biwa. Let me change to that. So I'm getting notifications on my phone. You can see how large the pick is. This music also reminds me a lot of like Indian music as well. Was one thing I found very interesting about this music. Also the way she's like phrasing and singing is also very interesting and unique. So that's all we're going to be able to listen to for that. Back on the presentation, oops, my bad. On the presentation, we have the shamisen is the next instrument on our list. So the shamisen is, it translates into 3 strings in Japanese. The shamisen came from China as well, via the Ryukyu Islands, and was derived from the Chinese instrument, the sangstain. Sorry about my pronunciation. I forgive if I'm wrong. It's also played with a pick called the bashi as well. So you're seeing a lot. One thing very interesting is there's a lot of picks, and I see a lot of picks with the string instruments in Japanese culture. So I find that very interesting. It can be used in a variety of settings, including kabuki, puppetry, and music can be even played by the geisha. The shamisen is an instrument which has been historically played by both men and women. So there's a lot of, so it's not really like, in a lot of instruments they have, like a lot of men will play it or a lot of women will play it. But this one can be played by both men and women, which I find very interesting. So I do have a performance by 2 ladies playing them. So let me pull that up here real quick. So here they are. So right here, I do believe they're actually tuning with each other, which I think this is a very interesting way of doing it. I love how the sound of the pick hitting the instrument is almost like setting it. It's almost like a metronome, almost. Also, the picks are really large here as well. Not as large, but still pretty large. So yeah, very interesting performance there. Reason, by the way, I'm cutting these off prematurely almost is because a lot of these performances are like 5 to 10 minutes long, and we'd be sitting here all day listening, which I do. I have listened to all the videos, by the way, all the way just for the presentation. So back on the presentation, the last one of the last weapons we'll be looking at is I think I passed it. Did I? No. I think I might have passed it. Oh, my bad. Okay, my bad. Sorry. We'll be looking at the Shakuhachi, which is a wind instrument. The Shakuhachi is this flute evolved from the Chinese counterpart, the azao, in the 6th century. It is made of bamboo and comes in many sizes. It is used by the Buddhist monks in the Edo period as a substitute for the sutra. It is also tuned in the minor pentatonic scale. This is it's a very interesting flute. I like a lot. So, going to the performance we have of that. Click on that. Here we go. This is a performance by Riley Lee, and a piece was composed back in 1150. So yeah, very interesting. And then if I go back to the presentation, the last slide we have will be of the koto. Now this is one of the very I think that's probably one of the most important instruments from Japanese culture. So, the koto is the Japanese plucked it's a half tube zither, and is also considered the national instrument of Japan. It's very similar to other zithers throughout the Eastern world. It came from the Chinese zither guzheng, and the se, and it was introduced in the Nara period, but later developed into the koto in the 16th century. There are many different types of kotos with different amounts of strings. The most common types uses 13 strings strung over the movable bridges used for tuning. Different pieces possibly requiring different tuning. The 17th string koto are also a common occurrence and act as basses in ensembles. The koto strings are generally plucked using 3 fingers worn on the first 3 fingers of the right, or plucked using fingerprints worn on the first 3 fingers of the right hand, and they can even have more strings than the 17 as well. So I do have a performance, and this is actually interesting. This is actually going to be a 25 string koto, and I really like this performance, so I'm going to show it to you. Here we go. This is probably one of my favorite performances in this presentation. I really like this performance. I also love the setting very much as well. Anyway, that was very good. Anyway, some final thoughts on this presentation. I find it very interesting, very enlightening to do all this research and figuring out all this stuff about the instruments. I think they're very interesting and unique, all of them in their own. I really love learning more about the style because I've listened to Japanese music but didn't know too much about it myself. So being able to hear, learning more about the instruments exactly and kind of like seeing like what was behind what I was listening to as well. I just found it was very interesting. I love Japanese music. I think this is very interesting. Koto especially was a very interesting instrument to me. Yeah, so I found it very interesting. A lot of the music from Japan originated a lot from China, a lot of Chinese influence and just other Eastern countries as well. So I find that very interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It was very fun to do. Here are my sources right here, all cited in MLA format. I do believe I'm going to be linking this PowerPoint to you, and I'll be linking my notes as well. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care.